I heard the laughter before I saw them. Not soft, not comforting, not the kind that slips out accidentally in a moment of shared grief, but the kind that doesn't belong within 10 miles of a funeral. My father's funeral. My chest tightened, a kind of wrongness blooming fast and acidic beneath my ribs, because I knew the sound. Her laugh, and his. Together. I froze in the dim hallway of the funeral home, one hand still on the bathroom door, the other clutching the folded eulogy I had rewritten 3 different times because the words never felt worthy of the man I'd lost. My heart thudded once, hard, like it was hitting the inside of my sternum trying to escape. No, I told myself. Not possible. Not today. But the sound came again, muffled, breathless, intimate. My wife, my brother. A bolt of nausea twisted through me. I stepped closer, slow as if wading through water, every instinct screaming at me to turn back, to pretend I heard nothing, to preserve whatever fragile, delusional peace still flickered inside me. Then I heard her whisper, too soft for anyone else, but not for me. Stop. What if he comes back? His voice, low, steady, familiar in the worst possible way. He won't. His with your in-laws. We have time. My hand pressed to the wall to keep myself upright. We have time. At my father's funeral. Something inside me cracked. The hallway was narrow, empty except for dim yellow lights and the faint scent of lilies drifting from a viewing room. The door ahead of me, the small storage room they'd slipped into, was cracked open just half an inch. And through that gap, I could see shadows moving. Their shadows. My breath hitched. My pulse roared in my ears, a sound so loud it drowned out everything except the sudden, violent shattering of the world I thought I lived in. For a moment, I stood there without breathing, without thinking, a hollowed-out man stitched together by shock. Then something switched off inside me. I pushed the door wider. The hinges creaked. 2 heads jerked toward me, her eyes wide, his mouth slightly open. My wife's lipstick was smeared. My brother's shirt was unbuttoned halfway down. My wife was the first to speak. Daniel. But I wasn't listening. My mind was in a different place, a different time, rewinding and replaying every strange moment of the last 4 months, the excuses, the last-minute errands, the sudden warmth between them that I had chalked up to shared grief. Of course it made sense now. Grief had brought them closer. Grief and something far uglier. My brother, Michael, stepped forward, hands raised slightly, as if approaching a wounded animal. Dan, listen. I couldn't. I stepped back, my entire body trembling. My father's coffin was 15 feet away. His photo rested on a stand lit by candles. And here they were, in a storage room, behind my back, at his funeral. My wife reached for me. She reached for me, and something dark and sharp rose up inside me, something I didn't recognize. Don't. I said, my voice barely a whisper. Don't touch me. She froze. Silence hung thick, suffocating, pressing down on all 3 of us. Then I stepped away from the door, turned, and walked toward the viewing room, the noise of murmuring guests rising as I approached. My limbs felt stiff, mechanical, as if my body belonged to someone else. My mother saw my face first. Daniel, sweetheart, what's wrong? I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. My throat was tight, burning. The world blurred at the edges, not with tears, not yet, but with disbelief so heavy it made it hard to stand upright. My brother's hand clamped on my shoulder from behind. I jerked away. Dan, please, we didn't mean. I spun around, heat flaring up my neck. Not here, I hissed. Not in front of them. A few guests had already started looking over. Grief made people nosy, or sensitive, or both. My wife stepped up beside Michael, her face pale. Daniel, listen to me. It wasn't. Her voice broke. I wish mine would too. Instead, a coldness slid down inside me like ice water. Later, I said, we'll deal with it later. My wife took a small step toward me. Please don't do this right now. A hollow laugh nearly escaped my throat. Don't do this? Don't do this? As if I had done anything. My mother appeared again at my side, picking up on the tension. Is something going on? No, I said too quickly. My voice was steady, eerily steady. Just stress. But I saw it in my mother's eyes, the beginning of question, a suspicion. I walked past her before she could speak, took my seat at the front of the room, and stared at my father's closed casket. This was supposed to be the hardest day of my life. Turns out, it wasn't even close. When the service started, I barely heard any of it. The prayers, the stories, the well-intentioned condolences. All I could hear were echoes, her laughter, his whisper, the rasp of their clothes when I opened the door. My father's face kept flashing in my mind, the last conversation we ever had. "Look after your brother," he'd said, breath shallow, voice weaker than I'd ever heard. I didn't answer then, and I couldn't answer now. I felt the weight of the betrayal pressing harder, filling my lungs, suffocating me. Every whispered condolence from a stranger felt like a needle in raw skin. Every mention of family felt like a joke. My wife sat 2 rows back now, not next to me. My brother had disappeared. Cowards, both of them. When the microphone was handed to me for the eulogy, my fingers shook. I stood, walked to the podium, and unfolded the paper. The words blurred. Loyalty, strength, family. I looked down at my father's coffin, and the truth, ugly, raw, uninvited, crashed into me. He died believing we were still a family worth protecting. My voice wavered as I began reading. Every sentence tasted like something broken. I heard muffled sniffles, the soft hum of someone comforting someone else. The whole room mourned him, and I stood there mourning something else entirely, a marriage that was dead before I realized it, a brother I no longer recognized, a life I didn't know how to step back into. When the eulogy finally ended, I walked back to my seat without looking at her, without looking for him. The burial would be next. And after that, after the last handful of dirt hit the coffin, I would confront them, both of them. But I had no idea that what I'd seen in that storage room was only the beginning. There were layers still hidden, lies tangled beneath lies, and one secret waiting to detonate everything. The cemetery wind was sharp enough to sting, carrying the smell of freshly turned soil and cold stone. People gathered around my father's grave in a quiet semicircle, coats buttoned high, eyes red. I stood at the edge, my fists buried in my pockets, trying to hold myself together long enough to get through this final duty. My wife hovered several feet behind me, close enough to watch, far enough to avoid speaking. She kept her eyes lowered, hair falling forward to hide the swollen redness around them. Guilt clung to her like a second skin. Michael wasn't here. I told myself that was a blessing. I couldn't have him near me. Not yet. Not while the ache inside me was raw and vibrating like a freshly cracked bone. The priest droned on, his voice carried by the wind, words about peace and eternity and release. But my mind wasn't listening. It was turning over memories like shards of glass. My father, sitting on his old porch chair. My brother, laughing beside him. My wife, smiling at both of them. All of it colored now with doubt, smeared with a single scene I couldn't scrub out of my mind. When it came time for the final handful of dirt, my mother sobbed. The kind of sob that seemed to rattle the ground. I went to her, placing a hand on her trembling back. She leaned into me. "He loved you boys," she whispered brokenly. "He loved both of you so much." I couldn't speak. I lowered my eyes to the grave, watching the first shovelfuls land softly on the wooden lid. "He loved both of you." The words twisted inside me. When the ceremony ended, people drifted toward their cars, murmuring condolences. My mother walked with my aunt. I waited until most of them were gone before turning to my wife. Her eyes darted up, terrified and resigned at once. "Daniel, please let me explain." "No," I said quietly. "Not here." She swallowed hard. Then, "Can we talk at home?" I hesitated. The thought of being alone with her made my pulse tighten, but I needed answers more than I needed comfort. "Home," I said. She opened her mouth to say something, maybe relief, maybe fear, but a voice called out behind us, "Dan, Michael." He stood near his car, hands shoved deep in his pockets, shoulders hunched like a scolded child. Our father's funeral suit looked wrong on him now, like borrowed skin. My wife stiffened. I stared at him. "We'll talk later." "Dan, listen." Later, I repeated, voice sharp enough to cut. His jaw twitched, but he nodded. My wife reached for my arm to steady herself, but I stepped out of reach. We drove home in silence. The house felt too still, too clean, like a place waiting for an argument to explode inside it. I walked straight to the living room, tossing my keys onto the table. My wife followed, wringing her hands. "Daniel, I'm so sorry," she whispered. "Don't apologize yet," I said. "I want the truth first." She choked out a breath. "I'll tell you everything." "Good," I said, sinking onto the couch. "Start with how long?" Her lips trembled. 3 months. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. 3 months, I repeated. "So, you started before Dad died." She nodded, tears slipping down her face. A cold pressure pressed against my ribs. "Why him?" "It wasn't about him," she said quickly. "It wasn't, Daniel, it wasn't love. I swear, everything happened when you were taking care of your father every night. You were exhausted. I was lonely. Michael kept coming over to check on me. We talked. We cried together. And then, I don't know. It just—" "You do know," I snapped. "You know exactly when it happened." She closed her eyes. "One night after your father went to the hospital, I was a mess. He hugged me. I didn't push him away. I felt something sink inside me, a slow, sick drop. I pressed my palms together. And today, at the funeral—" "We didn't plan that," she said desperately. "We were arguing. I told him we needed to end it for good. He grabbed my arm and dragged me into the room. It was stupid. Everything about this is stupid." I stared at her, at the woman I thought I knew. "You cheated on me," I said quietly, "with my brother, on the day we buried my father." She sobbed, covering her mouth. I didn't move. "Did Dad know?" I asked suddenly. She froze. "What?" "Did my father know about you two before he died?" Her eyes widened in horror. "No. God, Daniel, no. I swear." I studied her face, the panic, the sincerity, the shame. She was telling the truth, but she was also leaving something out. I could feel it. The story hung in the air, incomplete. Before I could speak again, the front door opened without knocking. Michael walked in. My wife stiffened like she'd been struck. And I stood slowly, a low anger spreading through me, heavy and dangerous. I said later, I told him. "I know," Michael said, voice strained. "But you need to hear something now." I laughed once, bitter, humorless. "I've heard enough." "No," he said, "you haven't." My wife's eyes darted to him, terrified. "Michael, don't." "Shut up," he snapped at her. My stomach twisted. "Both of you sit," he said, voice shaking with something I couldn't place. Shame, fear, maybe desperation. I didn't sit. I stared him down instead. Michael exhaled sharply. "Fine. I'll say it standing." He swallowed hard. Then he said the words that stopped my heartbeat cold. "Dad knew." My wife gasped. "Michael, stop. Don't do this." I stared at him, stunned. "What are you talking about?" Michael's voice cracked. "Dad found out a week before he died. He saw a text message pop up on her phone when she left it on the dining table during dinner. He confronted me. He told me to end it or he'd tell you himself." The room tilted slightly. My knees almost buckled. My father knew. My father died knowing. "What did you do?" I whispered. "I told him it was over," Michael said, "that it was a mistake. He didn't believe me. He told me I wasn't the son he raised. He said I betrayed the family." My breath caught painfully. My chest felt like it was collapsing inward. And then, Michael added quietly, he said the worst thing he ever said to me. He closed his eyes. He said he didn't want to see me again. A tremor went through him, a small, broken thing. My wife burst into tears. "Michael, stop. Why are you doing this to him?" He shot her a hateful look. "Because he deserves to know the truth." My voice was barely a whisper. "You didn't visit him in the hospital." Michael looked at the floor. "No." You didn't come the night he passed. No, because he told you not to. Silence. Cold. Heavy. Final. My wife sobbed harder, her shoulders shaking violently. You killed him, I said. Michael flinched as if struck. No, Daniel. No, that's not fair. You killed him, I repeated, the words rising like flames. You broke him. He died with this on his chest. Michael's eyes glistened, but he didn't deny it. And you, I said, turning to my wife, let him carry that burden alone. She sank to her knees. Daniel, please. But something inside me had shattered beyond repair. I looked at both of them, the brother I once trusted with my life and the woman I once trusted with my heart, and realized neither belonged in my future. Not after this. Not ever again. I want both of you out of my house, I said. Michael stepped back, swallowing hard. Dan! Out! My wife reached toward me one last time, tears streaming. Daniel, please don't end it like. I stepped away. Out! I repeated. They left in silence, two shadows disappearing through the doorway. When the door finally clicked shut, the house went unbearably still. I sank onto the couch, head in my hands, the weight of the truth crushing me, the betrayal, the secrecy, the burden my father carried in his final days. A sob broke out of me, raw, strangled, torn from someplace deep. And for the first time since this nightmare began, the grief hit me all at once, not just for him, but for everything I'd lost in a single day, for the man I would never be again, for the family that never truly existed, and for the truth that would haunt me for the rest of my life. My father died alone with the knowledge that his sons were no longer brothers, and because of them, neither would I ever be again.